Rescuing the little alien girl led to sharing a room with her fierce sisters. Unexpected rescue. Commander Elias Reed squinted at the scanner readings, frowning as he adjusted the controls of his exploration vessel. The horizon. Something unusual had registered on the far edge of the asteroid belt. A faint energy signature that didn't match anything in his database. Computer. Magnify section Delta 7, he commanded, brushing a lock of dark hair from his eyes. The main view screen zoomed in, revealing the unexpected source. A small escape pod drifting among the asteroids, its navigation lights blinking weakly. Life signs detected, the computer announced. One occupant. Unknown species. Elias hesitated only briefly. His mission was to chart the Epsilon Quadrant, not to engage in rescue operations, but he couldn't ignore someone in distress. Plot intercept course, he ordered, already preparing the docking protocols. The pod's hatch opened with a hiss once secured in the horizon's small cargo bay. Elias approached cautiously, hand hovering near his stunner, though he hoped it wouldn't be necessary. What emerged stopped him in his tracks. A small purple-skinned child, no more than 8 by human standards, with delicate facial features and large, luminous silver eyes that regarded him with equal parts fear and curiosity. "Hello there," Elias said softly, kneeling to appear less intimidating. "I'm Elias. Are you hurt?" The child's skin shimmered slightly as she shook her head, her silver eyes never leaving his face. "I'm Nira," she finally whispered. "My sisters will be angry. I took the emergency pod without permission." Elias smiled reassuringly. "Well, Nira, let's get you something to eat while we figure out how to contact your sisters." As it turned out, contacting Nira's sisters became unnecessary. The horizon's proximity alarms blared just hours later as a sleek vessel materialized seemingly out of nowhere, matching their velocity with unsettling precision. "Attention, human vessel," a stern female voice crackled through the comm system. "Return our sister immediately or face the consequences." Before Elias could respond, the cargo bay doors registered an unauthorized override. He rushed down to find 2 tall, imposing figures stepping through, their purple skin a shade darker than Nira's, their posture unmistakably militant. The taller of the two, her silver eyes narrowed with suspicion, pointed a crystalline weapon directly at his chest. "I am Vela of the Zerelian Guard. That is my youngest sister you've abducted." The second warrior, slightly shorter but no less intimidating, moved to flank him. "I am Kira," she said, her voice calmer but equally dangerous. "Explain yourself, human." Nira burst into the cargo bay, then rushing to her sisters. "No, he saved me." "The pod was failing and he brought me aboard." Vela's expression remained hard as stone. "Is this true?" Elias nodded slowly. "Your sister was adrift in an asteroid field. I couldn't leave her there." Something flickered in Vela's eyes. Uncertainty, perhaps. She lowered her weapon slightly. "Our vessel suffered a critical system failure. Nira was supposed to be in the safety chamber, not launching herself into space." "I was scared," Nira admitted, looking down. Elias cleared his throat. "Look, my ship's small, but you're welcome to stay until yours is repaired. I'm just a planetary surveyor, no threat to you." Vela and Kira exchanged glances, a silent communication passing between them. "Our ship will require at least 1 lunar cycle to self-repair," Kira finally said. "We accept your offer, human, but know this. If any harm comes to Nira or ourselves, you will not live to regret it." Elias suppressed a grimace. 1 month with 3 Zerelian females aboard his small vessel. This was definitely not in his mission parameters. "Welcome aboard the Horizon." "Then," he said, wondering exactly what he'd gotten himself into, "a reluctant cohabitation. This is inadequate," Vela declared, surveying Elias's quarters with unconcealed disdain. The room, designed for a single occupant, suddenly seemed impossibly small with 4 people standing inside it. "It's all I have," Elias replied, trying to keep his tone neutral. "The Horizon is a survey vessel, not a passenger ship." Kira ran her hand along the wall, her silver eyes taking in every detail. "Your technology is primitive but functional. We will adapt." Nira, meanwhile, had already claimed Elias's desk chair, spinning it with childish delight.
"I like it here."
"It's cozy." Elias ran a hand through his hair, exhaustion settling in his bones. "Look, you can have the sleeping quarters. I'll take the common area. The synthesizer can provide food, though I'm not sure what's compatible with your physiology." Our bodies process most carbon-based nutrition, Kira informed him, her tone slightly less hostile than her sister's. We require higher concentrations of minerals. However, the first night set the pattern for days to come. Elias slept fitfully on the small couch in the common area, while the sisters shared his bed. Personal space became a precious commodity, with the bathroom schedule turning into a diplomatic negotiation each morning. Human, your sonic cleansing chamber is inefficient, Vela complained on the third day, emerging with her purple skin still glistening with water. Apparently, she'd overridden the sonic setting for actual water usage, depleting his rationed supply. It's called a shower, and please call me Elias, he sighed. Too tired to argue about the water, cultural clashes became daily occurrences. Elias discovered the Zarelians performed elaborate morning rituals involving synchronized movements, similar to martial arts. He'd stumbled upon them one morning, transfixed by their grace despite the cramped space, until Vela noticed his stare. This is private, human, she snapped, though Nira waved cheerfully at him. Sorry, he muttered, retreating to check their course. By the end of the first week, the quarters had transformed. The sisters had rearranged his belongings, hung strange crystalline ornaments from the ceiling that cast rainbow patterns across the walls, and somehow made his sparse living space feel both alien and oddly homier. These are protection wards, Kira explained when she caught him studying one. They ward off negative energies. Do they work? He asked, genuinely curious. A ghost of a smile touched her lips. Does it matter? They remind us of home. The most challenging aspect was maintaining his survey mission while managing his unexpected guests. Vela surprisingly showed interest in his work, peering over his shoulder as he catalogued spatial phenomena. Your understanding of stellar cartography is not entirely flawed, she conceded one evening, which Elias recognized as high praise from her. Meals became a cultural exchange. Elias introduced them to his favorite synthesized dishes, while the sisters programmed new recipes into the system, exotic, spicy concoctions that burned pleasantly on the tongue. This reminds me of flame fruit from the southern continent, Vela said during one meal, a rare moment of nostalgia softening her features. Elias found himself watching her in these unguarded moments, noticing the way her expression transformed, how her eyes caught the light when she laughed at something Nira said. Tension still flared regularly. Vela challenged his decisions about ship operations. Kira maintained a cool distance despite their proximity, and Nira's endless questions and energy tested his patience after long shifts. Yet somehow, by the second week, they'd established a rhythm, an uneasy truce in their shared space. Elias would never have admitted it aloud, but the silence of solo missions had grown lonely over the years. Despite the complications, there was something comforting about returning to quarters filled with voices other than his own. One night, as he settled onto his uncomfortable makeshift bed, he heard soft footsteps. Opening his eyes, he found Vela standing over him, her expression unreadable in the dim light. Your back will be permanently damaged sleeping here, she stated matter-of-factly. We have discussed it and concluded the sleeping arrangements should be rotated. Tomorrow you will take the bed. Before he could respond, she returned to the sleeping quarters, leaving Elias staring after her, wondering if that small concession meant they were finally moving beyond mere tolerance. Breaking barriers. The proximity alarm jolted Elias from sleep. Red emergency lights bathed the common area as he scrambled to the control panel. What's happening? Vela appeared beside him instantly, her sleep garments doing little to diminish her warrior presence. Meteor shower, unexpected and large, Elias replied, fingers flying over the controls. Navigation's plotting an evasive course, but a violent impact rocked the ship, throwing them both against the wall. Kara emerged from the quarters, supporting a frightened Nira. Shield integrity at 60%, the computer announced calmly. Can this vessel withstand the impacts? Kira asked, steadying herself as another tremor shook the floor. Not if we take many direct hits, Elias admitted, scanning the readouts. The deflector array's struggling with the volume. Vela studied the tactical display. Your deflectors are poorly configured. Allow me. Elias hesitated only briefly before stepping aside. Vela's hands moved with surprising familiarity across his controls, making minute adjustments. The ship still shuddered with impacts, but the shields held steadier. Engineering shows an overheating coolant line, Elias noted, his expression grim. If it ruptures, understood. Vela nodded sharply. Guide the ship. I'll handle the engineering issue. I'll come with you, he countered. You don't know the systems. Kira interrupted. I'll monitor navigation. Go. They raced through the corridors, the ship lurching beneath them. The engineering bay was already filled with acrid smoke when they arrived. Elias grabbed breathing masks, handing one to Vela before directing her to the emergency coolant controls. Hold this valve steady, he instructed, crawling beneath the main conduit where superheated liquid threatened to breach the containment. Working in synchrony despite never having done so before, they managed to stabilize the system. When Elias emerged, sweating and soot-stained, he found Vela looking at him with newfound respect. You risked injury to save your ship, she observed as they returned to the bridge. And everyone on it, he added quietly. Something shifted between them after the meteor crisis. Vela began asking about his mission, his background, listening with genuine interest rather than her previous thinly veiled contempt. During their evening meal 2 days later, Elias finally worked up the courage to ask about their world. Zerelia is the jewel of the Khaidar system. Kira explained, her usual reserve softening. Our people have lived in harmony with the crystalline forests for millennia. Harmony maintained through strength, Vela added. The female guards protect our territories from those who would exploit our resources. Is that why you're so far from home? Elias asked. A shadow crossed Vela's face. We were returning from a diplomatic mission when our ship was sabotaged. Not everyone desires peace. Nira, who had been quietly drawing on a datapad, looked up. Show him the light dance, Vela. He saved us, he deserves to see. Vela seemed uncharacteristically hesitant, exchanging a glance with Kira, who nodded almost imperceptibly. That evening, Elias witnessed something few outsiders ever had. In the darkness of his quarters, the sisters performed what they called the Lumina ritual. Their purple skin began to glow with bioluminescence, creating patterns that shifted and flowed between them like a living conversation of light. It's how our ancestors communicated before spoken language, Kira explained afterward. Now it's preserved as cultural heritage. It's beautiful, Elias said simply, still mesmerized by what he'd seen. Later, as artificial night settled over the ship, Elias found Vela alone in the observation lounge, staring at the stars. Thank you, he said, joining her by the viewport, for sharing your ritual. She didn't look at him, but her voice had lost its edge. You showed courage during the crisis. On Zerelia, we believe actions reveal one's true nature. Elias smiled slightly. And what did my actions reveal? Vela turned then, her silver eyes meeting his with unexpected warmth. That perhaps not all humans are as weak and self-serving as we were led to believe. The silence between them felt different now, charged with something neither was quite ready to name. When Vela finally spoke again, her voice was softer than he'd ever heard it. Tell me about Earth, Elias. Tell me about your home. Blossoming connection. Days melded into weeks as the Horizon continued its survey mission, now with the unexpected addition of 3 Zerelian passengers. The cramped quarters had evolved from battleground to something approaching a home, with personal boundaries slowly dissolving like morning mist. Elias found himself lingering in the common area one evening, watching as Vela meticulously cleaned her ceremonial blade, a curved crystal weapon that caught the light in hypnotic patterns. Her movements were precise, almost meditative. It's beautiful, he commented, taking a seat across from her. I've never seen material like that. Vela's hands paused briefly. It's crystallized sunfire, formed in the core of our world. Each guard receives their blade upon completion of training. Her silver eyes flicked up to meet his. This was my mother's before me and her mother's before her. A family legacy, Elias nodded. My grandfather's star charts were what inspired me to become a surveyor. Some are still in my quarters on Earth. Something in his tone must have betrayed his homesickness, because Vela set her blade down and studied him with newfound curiosity. You miss your world, she stated simply. Sometimes, he admitted. Though solo missions were my choice, I've always been more comfortable charting the unknown than navigating crowded spaceports. Yet you've adapted to our presence with considerable flexibility. Elias laughed softly. Not sure I had much choice. There is always choice, Elias Reed, Vela said, using his full name for the first time. The way it sounded in her slightly musical accent sent an unexpected warmth through him. Their conversation extended into the ship's night cycle, shifting from cultural exchanges to personal stories. Elias described Earth's oceans, which fascinated Vela, whose homeworld was predominantly crystalline forests and mountains. In turn, she described the coming-of-age ceremony, where young Xerelians bonded with a crystal companion that would respond only to their touch. "Is that why your skin sometimes shimmers?" Elias asked, noticing the subtle glow that occasionally rippled across her purple skin. Vela nodded, extending her hand halfway across the table in an unexpected gesture. After a moment's hesitation, Elias reached out, their fingers meeting in the space between them. A gentle luminescence pulsed where they touched, like captured starlight beneath her skin. "We communicate through light and touch as much as words," she explained, her voice softer than usual. "Your species relies too heavily on sound alone." When their hands finally separated, something had undeniably changed between them. The following days brought new dimensions to their relationship. Vela began joining Elias during his survey shifts, her keen eyes spotting anomalies his instruments sometimes missed. They worked in companionable silence punctuated by thoughtful discussions about the universe and their respective places in it. Kira noticed the shift between them, raising an elegant eyebrow during one of their private sister conversations. "You're growing attached to the human," she observed without judgment. "He has admirable qualities," Vela admitted. "Courage, integrity, curiosity. And he watches you when you're not looking," Kira added with knowing amusement. During a particularly close stellar mapping mission, the Horizon sensors detected unusual radiation patterns from a nearby nebula. Elias spent hours analyzing the data, unaware of time passing until he felt a gentle touch on his shoulder. Vela stood beside his workstation, offering a steaming cup of the spiced tea she'd programmed into the synthesizer. "You need rest," she said simply. "Just a few more calculations," he murmured, accepting the drink gratefully. Instead of leaving, she pulled up a chair beside him, her shoulder brushing against his as they studied the readings together. The casual contact would have been unthinkable weeks ago. "The patterns resembled a Lumina ritual," she observed, tracing the energy signatures on the screen. "I thought the same thing." Elias nodded, pleased she'd seen it too. They worked together until ship's dawn, developing a theory about sentient energy patterns within the nebula. When they finally succeeded in establishing a mathematical model, Elias turned to her with unfiltered excitement and, without thinking, brushed his fingers against her cheek in celebration. Vela froze momentarily, silver eyes widening at the intimate gesture. Then, instead of pulling away, she leaned slightly into his touch, her skin warming and illuminating with subtle patterns beneath his fingertips. "In my culture," she whispered, "this would be considered quite forward." Elias started to withdraw his hand, but she caught it, guiding it back to her face. "I didn't say it was unwelcome." The moment stretched between them, heavy with possibility, until Nira's cheerful voice from the doorway shattered it. "Are you watching the starlights? Can I see too?" Elias and Vela moved apart naturally, but something had irrevocably shifted. A door opened that neither seemed inclined to close again. That night, as Elias prepared for sleep in the common area, despite the rotation schedule, he often ceded the bed to the sisters. Vela appeared silently beside him. "Our ship will be repaired soon," she said quietly, a statement loaded with unspoken implications. Elias nodded, suddenly unable to imagine the Horizon's quiet halls without her presence. "What happens then?" Instead of answering directly, Vela extended her hand to him in the Xerelian gesture of connection. As their fingers intertwined, the bioluminescent patterns on her skin formed intricate designs that seemed to flow between them. "Perhaps," she said softly, "our journeys need not diverge completely." Worlds united. The attack came without warning. One moment, the Horizon was cruising peacefully through the outer reaches of the Epsilon Quadrant. The next, proximity alarms screamed as two sleek predatory vessels materialized from what appeared to be a cloaking field. "Pirates," Elias muttered grimly, hands flying across the controls. "Lyran's syndicate by the look of their ships." Vela was beside him instantly, Kira already guiding Nira to safety. "Your vessel has minimal defenses," she assessed quickly. "Can we outrun them?" "Not a chance," Elias replied, diverting power to shields. "They've targeted our engines. They'll board us for salvage and the unspoken threat hung in the air. Human trafficking was as lucrative as ship parts in this sector, and female Xerelians would fetch an astronomical price in certain markets. The comm system crackled. Survey vessel, power down and prepare to be boarded. Comply and you might survive this. Vela's expression hardened to battle readiness. How many pirates typically board in these raids? 10, maybe 12, Elias answered, reaching beneath the control panel to extract a hidden blaster. I've got weapons, but not enough. We are weapons, Kira interrupted, her silver eyes flashing dangerously. She had already retrieved her crystal blade, which hummed with energy in her grip. The ship shuddered violently as the pirates locked on with magnetic grapples. Warning indicators flashed across every screen as the outer airlock registered an unauthorized override attempt. They're cutting through the port access hatch, Elias reported, bringing up security feeds. We have minutes at most. Vela placed her hand on his arm, her touch sending warmth through his flight suit. Trust us, Elias. This is what we were trained for. Something vulnerable flickered across her features. But if this ends poorly, know that these weeks have meant more to me than I can express in your language. Before he could respond, she was gone, moving with Kira to take defensive positions near the main corridor. Even in crisis, the fluid grace of their movements betrayed their elite training. The pirates breached the airlock with a shower of sparks and the screech of tearing metal. 8 heavily armed figures poured through the opening, weapons raised. They weren't expecting the reception that awaited them. The sisters moved like twin blades of a scissor, their crystal weapons humming with deadly energy as they cut through the first wave of boarders. Elias provided covering fire from a defensive position, his marksmanship proving unexpectedly precise. The human fights well, Kira called to her sister, a note of approval in her voice as she disabled 2 pirates with a series of lightning-fast strikes. The tide turned briefly when the pirate captain himself entered, wielding a neural disruptor that sent Kira crashing against the bulkhead. Vela roared with fury, her skin illuminating with battle patterns that pulsed like heartbeats as she engaged him. Elias rushed to Kira's side, checking her vital signs while maintaining his position. She's stunned but stable, he reported to Vela, who fought with redoubled intensity. The captain, recognizing Vela's superior combat skills, triggered a hidden explosive charge. The blast knocked Elias off his feet and separated the sisters. Taking advantage of the chaos, the remaining pirates regrouped, surrounding Vela with weapons trained on her. Surrender the ship, the captain snarled, or watch your purple friend die slowly. Time seemed to freeze as Elias met Vela's eyes across the smoke-filled corridor. In that silent exchange, something passed between them. Understanding, resolve, and something deeper that transcended their different worlds. Without hesitation, Elias activated the emergency decompression protocol he'd secretly prepared, targeted specifically at the section where most pirates stood. The warning klaxon gave Vela just enough time to brace herself before localized gravity reversed violently, sending the unprepared pirates tumbling into a containment field. The captain, however, managed to maintain his footing and lunged toward Elias with murderous intent. Before his neural disruptor could discharge, a crystalline blade erupted through his chest from behind. No one threatens what's mine, Vela stated coldly as the captain collapsed. The aftermath found them battered but victorious. The surviving pirates secured in the cargo bay force field for delivery to the nearest Galactic Alliance outpost. As Elias treated a wound on Vela's arm, the tension between them had transformed into something electric. You called me yours, he said quietly, his fingers lingering on her purple skin. Vela's silver eyes met his unflinchingly. Among my people, declaring one's claim during battle is significant. A rare uncertainty crossed her features. Perhaps I presumed too much. Elias shook his head slowly. No, not too much at all. His hand moved to cup her face gently. I would have done the same. 3 days later, as they approached the rendezvous point where the repaired Xerelian vessel awaited, Elias found himself dreading the inevitable farewell. He stood in the observation lounge, watching the approaching ship with a heaviness in his chest. Vela found him there, as she often did now, their bodies naturally gravitating toward one another. Our vessel is ready, she said, her voice uncharacteristically soft. So I see. Elias turned to her, memorizing the proud angles of her face, the shimmer of her skin in the starlight. To his surprise, she smiled, a full, radiant expression he'd seen only rarely. I've spoken with the council. They've approved my request for a cultural exchange program. Elias blinked, not daring to hope. Cultural exchange? The Zerelian Council is interested in establishing relations with Earth, she explained. They require a knowledgeable liaison, and I recommended a certain surveyor with proven courage and unusual respect for alien cultures. Understanding dawned slowly. You want me to come with you? Vela's hands found his, her skin illuminating with the intricate patterns he now recognized as symbols of affection. My sisters will return to Zerelia with our vessel. I request permission to remain aboard the Horizon, to continue our journey together. Elias felt a smile breaking across his face like sunrise. Permission enthusiastically granted. Our worlds are very different, Vela cautioned, though her fingers tightened around his. There will be challenges. Good thing we've had plenty of practice overcoming those, Elias replied, drawing her closer until the space between them disappeared entirely. As their lips met, a human gesture she had come to appreciate, the stars beyond the viewport seemed to witness the beginning of something rare and precious. A bridge between worlds, built on understanding, respect, and love that had bloomed in the most unexpected of places. Kyra and Nira found them there later, still wrapped in each other's embrace. Nira bounced excitedly while Kira merely nodded her approval. The stars have strange paths for us all, she observed philosophically, before adding with uncharacteristic humor, though I admit, sister, I never expected yours to lead to a human. Not just any human, Vela corrected, her eyes never leaving Elias's face. This one. And as the Horizon charted its new course through the vastness of space, 4 souls from different worlds had somehow found in each other that rarest of discoveries, a place to call home.